Meanwhile, Nigeria's defense headquarters has commenced build-up preparations for the mobilization of troops and equipment for a possible confrontation with the junta in Niger Republic. This is in compliance with the directives of the Economic Community of West African States. This is according to sources close to the defense headquarters. However, the ECOWAS Parliament is divided over the use of military might to force the junta, which overthrew President Bazoum on July 26, out of power, and to reinstate the Nigerian President. The Nigerian Military High Command, it was gathered, had directed the service chiefs to compile and submit war requirements such as the number of personnel, equipment, logistics, and financial costs to the Chief of Defense Staff. Let's have a quick chat on developments surrounding Niger. We are now joined by Oludare Akinlaja, an international development advisor. Oludare, thank you so much for your time here. Now, Nigeria's intervention team, comprising, the prominent Islamic scholars, have met with coup leaders in Niger Republic, where both parties agreed to intensify the option of dialogue. How excited, or maybe not, are you about this development?
All right, thank you very much. It's an exciting development, and that's because nobody wants war, okay? People can speak about it and talk about it and use it as it means to want to engage, but nobody really wins with war. So if dialogue is working, it's a very, very good option. Now, one of the things you must notice is that the proximity of Niger to Nigeria is so close that if we think that the war in Niger will not affect Nigeria, we should think again. So I'm excited that at least there's progress, and war is not the ultimate option in this scenario, that there's some progress to driving dialogue.
I see. So, the question now will be, how do we move forward now? How do you propose that?
Oh, so in moving forward, I first think that, you see, because one of the things that happen in diplomacy and in conversations is that there are too many blind spots that we who are on the outside might not necessarily understand the parameters, who are the stakeholders, what's the game involved, okay? So we can just give outside perspectives to what we know, but there might be loads and loads of intricacies that we might not understand. The first thing, I think, is how do we avoid war? Secondly, how do we ensure that the people of Niger, okay, whether on the military end or on the democratic end, how do we ensure that that country enjoys the best of leadership and leadership that would not involve us having to go to war, really. So I think the military in Niger and the ECOWAS need to sit down now and say, you know what are your needs? What are the things involved? What are your grievances? How do we engage this? Because really, if we do not know what the parameters are and who the stakeholders are, we really will not be able to ascertain what's best. But I think what's important is we must have to understand what is the grievance, what is really the problem.
I see.
How do we move forward? How do we sort it out?
We also know that both parties in this case, ECOWAS and the Niger junta, that is, have both made their positions known. ECOWAS, on the other hand, is hoping for the reinstatement of Bazoum. The junta has made clear that is never going to happen. What's your advice to the parties as they go into this dialogue?
So it's very important. And now, off the top of my head, I think that what ECOWAS is trying to prevent is, because if you study Niger and just study the country, Bazoum just got into power in 2021. And there have been other things, military coups, and ECOWAS, I'm sure, just wants to put his foot on the ground. I'm sure maybe people are asking, what really is the use of ECOWAS? And so for this one, ECOWAS really wants to put his foot on the ground at some level and say, you know what, we can't keep having military coups. We have had in Guinea, we have had in Burkina Faso, we've had in Mali. Why are we having this? This must not always happen. So I'm sure ECOWAS just wants to put his foot on the floor and say, you know what, we can settle things without always having coups. Why don't we use democratic transitions? Why don't we use electoral processes? Why must we always use coups? to sort our issues on the continent. I'm sure that's where ECOWAS is mentally.
Right.
And for the junta, the people who made the coup happen, maybe you hear things like it's for corruption, it's to set their people free and all that stuff. But I think we need to look at it critically. I think democracy is still not a perfect system, but it's still man's best invention, okay, to enhance for better governance. So I think we should be looking for how they can allow their people enjoy democracy, how they can allow their people pick their leaders. This is essentially what democracy is about. At some point, the people will now be held responsible for the decisions they have made. But for you to forcefully keep changing leadership, that's not going to be helpful in how our countries on the continent of Africa moves forward.
Right. Now, as you've said before, war has never been the answer to any situation at all. So tell us, what impact do you think that would have on the sub-region and, touch wood, if this negotiations or dialogue fails?
If we go to war, so today, some people, I'm sure you know that, and yesterday there was some riot in Kano where they were saying we really don't need to go to war. Why do we need to go to war? There's already some feedback from the effect of the border closure in the northern part of Nigeria. In fact, Niger spends naira. Okay, that's how close they are to Nigeria. Okay, I'm sure. Jokingly, I don't know how to say this, but the former president, whether he jokingly said or not, says he was going to retire in Nigeria. Okay, that's how close they are to Nigeria. So if you have a war in Niger, you are really going to have a business breakdown. We're going to have a lot of there's going to be loads and loads of civil unrest, literally, because I'm sure people who are in Nigeria will literally have relatives in Niger.
Right.
So it's going to be a lot of migration process. It's going to be pressure on our borders. It's right next to Nigeria. Okay, it's going to be chaotic. Okay, there's the Boko Haram and the insecurity in northern Nigeria. We now want to go to war in Nigeria. That's going to put pressure on our borders in every front. Okay, business-wise, economically, migration issues, insecurity. Because if you start the war, how do you know who the players are? How do you know that we're not going to empower some other smaller splinter groups that will begin to end coming to Nigeria? It's a lot of things we need to look at, really. Okay, and it's not really safe for our brothers up there.
Indeed. Oludare, thank you so much for your time here on the news.
Thank you very much.